hello, darling, and welcome to the Just Jax Podcast. Hi, I'm Jax, and I help you find the can in your cat. When we challenge our cats, miracles happen, because when I challenge mine of I can't draw, I can't paint, and I can't color, imagine my surprise when I discovered what I can do is create a 21-foot garden mural that was recently featured not once but twice on the front page of our local newspaper. Next up, I challenge the I'm no author, no artist, and no cursive writing specialist, but what I can do is self-publish 3 books for my kick-ass cursive writing curriculum, Crack the Cursive Code. I'm a Jax of all trades, but what I master in is helping ordinary people like me to do extraordinary things through laughter, tears, life-changing stories, because metaphors are my jam. Together we can find the can in your can'ts, the do's in your don'ts, and the wills in your won'ts. I'm so excited for you. Let's go. Hello, my darlings, and welcome to the Just Jax Podcast. And if you're new here, you are catching us right near the end of our 7-part series on the Adopt-A-Naughts. This is the episode on Not Chosen, which is number 6 in the series, and we deal with the sneaky little word not and how that 3-letter word can is the basis of all of your suffering, because everything that we create that is negative in our life has the word not in it. And this is the one where we feel slighted or betrayed because we are not chosen. I had this episode recorded yesterday and realized that I had a breakthrough aha moment, a episode one where you just have to go, that really changes everything. And this realization basically explained my relationship with my mother and why I suffered with this whole not chosen experience with her. And I'm going to share that with you in a couple minutes, and but I will go through first of all what the experience was with her. I have no idea at this moment if I expect to want to talk to her about that yet at this time. I'm still processing all of that, and and I've again have no idea whether or not this is truly what she would recognize or understand it to be, but it sure rings true for me. So let's start at the beginning. And the first one was one of the main banes of my existence with my mother is her infatuation with my father. This is going to get very candid and quite open about things, but I have no other way of really processing any of this. My mother is very determined to continuously tell me how horrible of a man my father is. And this was discussed quite in detail in my loser episode, which is episode 12. And loser stands for living out someone else's reality. She continuously told me on one hand that I was just like my dad, but my dad had really serious loser qualities. Like he's maybe a 2nd or 3rd star general in the loser army. He's pretty up there. But I had never understood her infatuation with him. She got the marriage annulled through her church, which gave her a modicum of relief. But she swears that the only reason that she married my dad is because he raped her. And I'm like, well, that makes me feel even better of having him as my father and of a human being, and very hard understanding of why she would have this infatuation to be to be with him. I like, as you can tell with my hesitation, I'm still struggling with that, but I'm sure understanding her background and how abused she was by very many people that were meant to be in a safe environment for her, that going into someone with my dad and his proclivities of a character, he it was a very convoluted, complicated process. But I feel that I think a lot of issues with my mom is that she never felt chosen by my dad, that not chosen wound was super huge for her because she did the most for him, yet he never really chose her. It wasn't until much later that he was quarantined and medicated in a home or hospital. It's hard to explain, but anyway, he is he's quarantined to the building, or confined is the better word, confined to the building. And she would go and visit him. This just happened like within the last 10 years, and they divorced in 1986. And it was everything that my mom's focus somehow had to come back to my dad. And now I'm truly understanding why. And that's the realization that I came to. But it seemed that no matter what, I was invisible because I was not chosen, that she chose my dad over me. And that's tough because when I was 15 years of age, my dad really made life difficult in the responsibility department, the financial responsibility, and my mother was kick ass at being financially responsible. She still is. Some of her methods are a little bit cringy in regards to she can be sharp and cheap at times, but generally she's really frugal and smart with her money. So she was working a full-time job in the city. My dad had abruptly and meanly moved us out to the country, and we were 45-minute drive from the city. And my mom worked just on the outskirts of the northeast part of the city. So it was a commuter. We were in a commuter town, but she was driving back and forth, and things were getting really heated with her and my dad. And I remember having a conversation with her, asking her to leave dad because she was already working in the city and we could just transition there. I was going to school there. We could have found a place near where we lived, but she told me that she was choosing him for us. And I'm like, I knew then that there was no choosing for the kids because she was the entire reason we were surviving. He was like a cancer really, and just took and turned everything to poison. There were times where he would just sit on the couch for like a month and refuse to talk to us, except for demand stuff from my mom. She got the brunt of most of that, yet she chose that over us, and it took me a long time, even until like just yesterday, to figure yeah, just yesterday, to figure out that holy shit, I'm beginning to understand a little bit more of the chase of wanting to be accepted. And my mom went through a chase with my dad to get that, and I did the exact same thing. And that's where this comes very interesting, is that you can find in your life, if it's happened for you, for me, maybe this has also happened to you, that you can sit there and hang on so tightly when you were not chosen, but then when you refuse to choose someone else and do the exact same thing, it can be very hypocritical and difficult to swallow. And I did that with my kids. I got into the same spell of a guy and just chose him over my kids, and spent more time with him than I did with my kids. And I'm still dealing with some of the fallout from that. So that was the first part, was in regards to my mom choosing my dad. And that really, there was a situation with my first marriage. I have a few, and so it's going to be tough if this is your first podcast to catch up with how many relationships, marriages. I'm on marriage number 4, and so this is with my first husband. There was a moment where I was standing with my mom and my dad gave me a not an ultimatum. Well, it was an ultimatum. He gave me an ultimatum either to choose them or to choose this boy. And he very rarely even got involved in anything I did. And my mom just stood there and said nothing. And I just looked at him and I said, well, I chose the boy. And that helped me because I look back now and realize that that formed my personality and my relatability with people, that he really taught me how to be gregariously yourself and unapologetically yourself. And he allowed a big enough space to be safe for someone else, for someone like me to grow. And he was a really big space. And I realize that now, that is my lesson and my gift to others, as well as the gift that he gave me. That in some ways I'm loud and I swear and I'm borderline HR unprofessional sometimes. But and I'm flamboyant and all these things. But this allows people who are like me in the beginning, who are so scared to come out of their shell, that allows them the safe space to become what they want to become. When I was a lead medical receptionist for this really kick-ass building that we had, and I had this team of 6 girls underneath me, and we would have theme weeks where we would do things. And there was one week where it was superhero week, and I decided that I was going to put on a hot pink short bob. The wig came to my just down below my chin, and I darkened my eyes like I had a superhero mask, because we were wearing masks, and I just wanted my eyes to be a little blacker behind. And I wore this pink camouflage onesie with my combat boots and a belt, and I had a cape, and I just was super Jax for the day. And my people were just killing themselves laughing, but everybody donned on their superhero capes, and we had pictures taken, and we had a great day, because I decided that I would go a little bit outside of the box to allow my team members to grow whatever that small amount, to have more fun and to be more fun. Because if I was there, I took the edge off and made it fun for everyone. And I never realized until just now that's exactly what he did for me, that he gave me that gift of knowing how to provide a safe space by allowing yourself to be as bold as you need to be, just to be you. The second time that I felt the sting of being not chosen was when I decided to change my religion. My mother was raised in a very tight knit Ukrainian Catholic community, ones that really rejoiced in the rituals and the festivals and the traditions that went along with that faith system, and absolutely loved it. I myself had a different experience. My grandfather was a celebrity before the internet really came in the rural Ukrainian community. He, in the 70s, recorded 4 albums. He was a fiddler for Ukrainian music for weddings. He's inducted into the Ukrainian Music Hall of Fame, which is no big deal to the big world, but to the Ukrainian community, it's pretty kick ass. And I remember waking up with him tuning his fiddle or playing it when I went to see him for summers and stuff. And there was a lot of memories about that. So my mother, her entire experience about religion was very different than mine. There were some serious family members and the school and etc. that treated my mother like shit. She was beat by her grandmother and treated very poorly in the wrong ways by some uncles of hers, and just horrific stuff, and bullied at school. And her one solace was the church. And the church has a sanction of nuns that are quite active in the Ukrainian Catholic Church, where they were at that time. I'm unsure. I've been out of it for quite a long time now, but at that time there were some nuns that were very highly involved with the Ukrainian Catholic Church, and my mother was chosen by them to be treated lovingly and taken under their wing. And she had quite a few of those nuns and some priests that became close friends of hers as she got older, that really cemented that the church was for her and that she was chosen to be loved and accepted. She even became the cook of the monastery of the priests in Manitoba when I was growing up. And that allowed us a backstage pass to the inner workings of the church, took the mystery away from it. It made the priests to be more like men, which was part of the downfall because my mother's fear and my dad's example made me a man hater, and I wanted nothing to do with that male dominant patriarchal kind of mindset. I was what actually did it is I had moved to a town just south of Calgary, and when going to the church there was a Ukrainian Catholic priest, and I'm a lovable person, and people like to be around me. Usually, there's always the exception, and so I became known by the priest, and I think that had to do also with my mom, because my mom's a pretty high profile person in her church for good and bad reasons. But all reasons for being unapologetically herself. So that's a good example that way. But he was talking to me and he says, well, Jackie, because I went by Jackie because my mother called me that. He goes, you could always call me. And I looked at him, I said, Father, your phone dials out. You could always call me. And the women in there looked at me automatically like I was going to get struck by lightning and become an instant charcoal briquette. And I'm like, and that was it. That's where it snapped it for me. I just that whole mindset of they were these holy men that I never experienced any of that negative drama or the abuse or any. I know all the priests in my life were absolutely fantastic, and I was blessed to experience that, and the nuns as well. And I count that to be a blessing, but that was my mother's life. So when I decided to go into the exact opposite direction, the right wing, and denounce everything that was her support system and everything that she defined to be her, she took it as a rejection of her instead of realizing that I was raised in a city, not in a small town. I never had that connection with the church to that degree that she did. Mine was a little bit different with where I was. I had a fun experience with mine, but she had a dad that was well loved and responsible financially anyway, but he was a musician. So but he was a profitable musician, and he was a popular musician, and so with that popularity my mother also had a different experience with her dad and idolizes her dad to this day and misses him and puts posts on Facebook or something like that about how much she misses him. I have zero experience with that. So her experience and my experience in regards to the church and different things was vastly different and was hard for her to understand. For she's at that stage of grief and abuse that she has an inability to see someone else's perspective in a situation like that. So when I left the church, it really hurt her. We never talked for a year and a half. But in her defense as well, the family member that introduced me to the faith really was a zealot in the way they behaved and mocked her religion and wrote horrific things on her prayer books because she was someone who ate pork, and that to them was such a sin, and called her names because of it. It was just horrible. So in her defense, she thought I was going to become someone like that, and there was enough of a judgmental spirit that because you feel like you're the chosen one, right? That's okay. Now you're finally chosen because in that faith, that's what you're called, is the chosen, right? But I think that's really ironic because it's whether or not God chooses you, not the whether or not you think you are chosen. And I had a quote read to me one time that just changed everything, that sometimes we're going to be very surprised who actually was chosen. Because what God deems good deeds and what we deem good deeds can be totally totally different. Anyway, so that was the second time that that it was difficult for my mom, and where I got a sting where I felt that I was not chosen. The third one, again, a very convoluted experience, but painful still the same. Um, I left my relationship with my boys and caused quite the stir. There was an older gentleman that came into my world, and my mother also was introduced to him because he was just a really nice man. All of a sudden, I, romantically or not, I needed to get out of my relationship, which I was suffering horribly. When I got married, we were at the wedding and we had 350 people downstairs in the reception hall. And we had to walk from the altar to the elevator because of with my dress, and to go down the elevator to the reception line. And when I was in the elevator, I looked at him and I just made the biggest mistake of my life. And that was from walking from the altar. And I faked my reception because I'm just like, oh my God. So, but because I was a good believer, because I even got my first marriage annulled to marry this guy, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm in it to win it. I'm no quitter. There's arranged marriages all the time. I'll do what I can. And I did what I could for 8 years, and then I was done. And he was irresponsible to the point of like my dad in regards to providing for his family. And this old man was this old man, that sounds like the song. This old man was willing to help me get on my feet so that I could take care of my boys and give them what they needed to give. And I went there. The romantic part came afterwards, but that was irrelevant because the exit was too quick in between the realization that it could be romantic and when it actually happened. Enough of a spin that my mother lost her shit. I have never seen someone get that angry and face contort like that. I just, um, she was, she was devastated, and something snapped for her. And I realized yesterday what that snap was, but at the time I had no idea. She decided to side with my ex-husband. We had a very serious conversation. My mom went home, and then the next morning the kids were going to where they went to the normal babysitter, and my mom went to the babysitter and picked them up. And then I had an uphill battle through the courts to get my kids back. Well, to even see them, first of all, they wanted to prove that I was mentally unfit and that I was a danger to my children. My mother wrote a 3-page letter, typed both sides, as evidence of how horrible of a mother I was. And my lawyer, she tells me about the letter, and I went, well, yeah, I looked at it. I never read it. I just sat there and went, I had, no thanks. I knew that my mother was struggling with me as a person for a long ass time. And there was always this undercurrent that I could never understand what was bothering her about me. Just that there was something. And so I looked at my lawyer and I went to her. I said, she loves me. And my lawyer looks at me. She goes, Jacqueline, no, 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 she doesn't. And I'm like, yeah, I'm aware of that. And that was one, like, she may have loved me as like a daughter, my position in the family, but me as a person, no. And that was very difficult to deal with. They took a new family picture without me in it, the four of them, and it used to hang at the front door for years. I think it finally, let's see, this happened in 2000, 2001. I think it was maybe just after the pandemic, I think, that the picture got taken down, because it was a nice picture of my mom and the boys. Holy shit. Because he was not chosen, he made my life a living hell. He did everything he could to make it difficult for me. He interrogated me by a lawyer for 2 hours to try and prove that I was crazy. He called our entire church network and told them that in the guise of putting me on a prayer chain of how horrible I was and what I had done. I lost my church family and my blood family support overnight. Now, because I had made a choice, looking back now, that was one of the best choices I ever made, because I look now between my two boys, and the stuff that my older son is struggling with is the stuff that I struggled with, and that's the family ties. It's the chain that I've been trying to break for a long time, and I have. I'm going to take away the word trying. What I have been working on to break for many, many years, and it is finally breaking. But my son, my younger son, because of the influence of the old man and who he was, and I affectionately called him old man, so for that, just so you know, that that was one of our endearments, that the old man, he broke the chain with my son, because my son now has his mindset, and there were some mindsets were hit with him that really needed to be implanted, like almost like a hard graft, and where you graft you to something else. And that's exactly what happened with my younger son. Do I condone the method in which I caused that graft? No, I really would love someone else or some other way than that chaotic, um, impactful choice. But when I made that choice, I made the right choice. And it was the right choice for us. Seeing my younger son and how he is blossoming and growing and changing and altering and breaking that chain and making that loop wider and wider is opening my heart and making me happy. And it was well worth all of that. But so, and all of these times that I was so upset with my mother and her not choosing me, I really figured out yesterday the reason why that happened is because indeed I was chosen. And this came to the realization when I was thinking about this podcast yesterday, is that I received the least amount of abuse from my dad. And that is a very hard thing to picture and understand. But I witnessed what he did to my mother, and I witnessed what he did to my brother. But I really am struggling to remember anything that he did to me directly. I do remember some interaction that we've had, but none of them were any kind of abuse. Now, he disappointed me greatly, because there were two milestones in my growing up. One was my high school graduation, and another one was I did 5-pin bowling. For my American friends, I did 5-pin bowling in Canada, and I did pretty good at it. And I qualified for this tournament in Lethbridge, and he never wanted to come. And so when I needed him to be my dad, he never was there. But I do have memory of him teaching me to drive and different things like that. But I always twisted that well, he was never in my life, and look at all the little that he did and all this chaos that he created. But I'm really beginning to understand that I had a bubble around me, that I think that's what the heart was. The problem with my mom is that she never got that from my dad. She was never chosen. So because I was already chosen, why would she give more to me? But I'm realizing now that all the stuff that she went through, I was impacted the least. And it has been very unearthing for me to realize that I had been carrying around this knot of not being chosen because I was looking at the parent that was suffering from my being chosen, that I never recognized that I was chosen. I always looked at my brother that I thought that he was the one that was the favored because he got to spend time with my dad. But my dad also put me in the house because I was chosen there because to keep me safe, because I was the chosen one. And in his decrepit, broken mindset, that's what, like, I remember one time I was telling my husband yesterday. I remember one time I had got a D in a class. And I was sick because my mom says, "You got to talk to your dad about this." And I'm like, "Oh my God." And my dad just looked at me and I looked at him and he goes, "So I understand you got a D in your class." And I went, "Yeah, yeah, I did." He goes, "Are you going to do that again?" I said, "No." He goes, "Okay." And I'm like, my mom's like, "That's it," type of thing. And like, I'm really beginning to see how I kind of had collective abuse because I witnessed it to other people, but I'm really, unless I've really blocked it out, but I'm having a hard time even finding a place in my body where that truth lies, that I saw my dad beat my brother, like kick him to because he left the water on when we were having a water fight. I've seen my dad just call my mother like horrible things like pig and just terrible, terrible things to do with my mother. The worst thing he did for me was that he would go on the couch and he would ignore us for like a month. But it was ignore us all, but there was still I still got the best of all of it because I never had the other stuff, the horrific things. And I think he really just wanted to be a dad for me, and to be a man for my brother was too much. There was no his internal abilities to become a man for someone else. His experience with his dad was horrific. It's one of those Criminal Mind stories that you would see. His dad was just a piece of work. Anyway, so my dad was an upgrade of his dad, and he fell supremely short for me, but he really was an upgrade to his dad. And I'm realizing now the way he treated me was the upgrade because no one in his family got treated like that. So I guess in regards to the lesson in all of this for all of us is what we're focusing on in the areas that were not chosen. And this is where I wish I had this mantra when I was younger, and it's the "I'm the type of person" mantra, because I could have built myself some worth, is because I'm finally choosing myself truly what is good for me. In the past, I chose what kept me small, safe, and believing things that kept me in that mindset that I was not chosen. But I now want to be in the mindset of being chosen. I have been in some really interesting situations where I have been chosen. One of them, when my ex and I split, you can imagine that it rocked his family. I was, and I probably, even though they've passed, I would still be classified as the favorite daughter in law, even though I had that horrific experience through the courts and I was supposed to be crazy. And there was actually a signed affidavit that from a church member whose wife was put in the hospital fearing she was causing harm and putting her children possibly in harmful situations. So she was hospitalized for a while until she got her thoughts in a better place. And she was on a specific antidepressant. And I started taking that antidepressant because I was depressed. And because I was on the same antidepressant, he felt that that was a trait that we shared. And he wrote an affidavit that he feared for my children's lives in my presence which they were totally the day before, and I was the only responsible adult in their life until that time. But after I made the decision to leave my husband, then I became a threat to my children and had to fight all the way through that. Despite that affidavit, I was expecting to be basically worse than gum on the shoe, almost shit on the bottom of their shoes because of what I put their grandchildren and their son through. But oh no. After our relationship dissolved, he quickly got into another relationship. Well, what am I going to say about quickly? Mine were super quick. His happened, I'd say maybe 6 months later, and he impregnated this woman, and she was a lot different than I was. She was very firm on who she was as a person instead of myself in a different way. We had the same strength of character, but I was really lost on who I was and what I believed in myself and my self-esteem. And hers was a little stronger in the areas that I was weaker, and I was stronger in the areas that she was weaker, and I could see why he was attracted to her. Well, it found out that the areas that really challenged him were the areas that she was stronger in, and their relationship dissolved despite there being a baby involved. And so he walked away from the baby and he called it a biblical thing, and left him in the hands of God. Yes. And I was just beside myself. So we became, I had gone to visit my mother. There had been some time that had passed, and she was wanting me to have more time around the kids. So she was doing her part to allow me having access. I like the word allow, allowing me having access. And she was telling me about how this woman who I had met and was one of the main reasons where his case started to fall apart. And her and my mother had become friends because my mother had adopted my ex as her son, type of thing. And so this was now another grandchild. Softly, my mother told me that this woman wanted to meet me because she couldn't believe how much of a bitch I was. So I call her and I said, "Hi, this is Jacqueline." And she goes, "Hi." And I said, "I just was told that you want to meet me because you can't believe how of a bitch I am." And she goes, "That's an interesting thing," because I said, "That's what my mom said." And we became really close friends for many years. So she was the next woman in line. And then he had another woman that came into his life, and he married her, and she had 3 of her own children before. And that step arrangement between him and my boys was very rocky at best. And they shared a child together, the only girl, because I have 2 boys, and lady number 2 had 1 boy, and then the second wife had a little girl. And so time went by, and a 50th wedding anniversary came up, and they were doing a slideshow. And guess who was the star of the slideshow? Would it be the younger son's wife, who did everything in her power to try and be the best daughter-in-law? Nope. Was it the older son's wife, who really had nothing to do with the family all that much, but still she could have been in there? Nope. Could it have been the second lady that had a boy? Nope. Could it have been the new wife? Nope. It was me. I was in the show consistently, and enough that my son texted me and he's like, "Mom, what's going on? You're in almost every picture." Because I was the chosen one, darling. But when you shine, for me, the reason why I became the chosen one for them is because I was coming into my own of understanding who I was and shedding off all of the miserable things that just kept me down. And I started to uplift and be fun and be direct and just be myself. That was part of the transitioning when I woke up from being this dutiful, fundamental Christian to just being a wild child, I guess, would you consider me now, where I'm just seeking for the good in everything because I want to find the good in me that can help me deal with the I don't want to say bad because that's unfair, but the stuff that makes me small and keeps me miserable and feels bad, the stuff that feels bad would be better because it's not bad. It's what we feel about it that makes bad. And then another time that I was chosen, that I was kind of surprised about why I was chosen, where in my fundamental Christian days, I was a high profile person, as you can imagine. And I was chosen to attend this brainstorming with the policymakers and leadership because they wanted to develop a new a new program to reach the church body, because they were finding that there was a disconnect between the church body and the leadership, and they wanted to be able to help them, give them their resources and such. And I thought, well, that's a great idea. I had no idea why I was asked to do that because I have absolutely no credentials behind my name. Well, I have an associate's degree, but I should stop there because that's unfair, because there are people that have nothing, and I am a high school graduate. I went to a community college for a year, and then I have an associate's degree, so I have some levels of higher education. But the ones where there's a little bit more clout, those those there are no letters of those behind my name. So when I was asked to come here, everyone that was there were dressed very professionally. And I was working on a dairy farm at the time and having this big conversation. And I'm sitting there, like, basically looking at my fingernails, going, what the hell am I doing here? They finally came up with a mission statement that compartmentalized fundamental assistant. Like, everything was so clinically correct and basic. It was this big, long sentence full of syllables. And I'm like, I finally went to say, I said, who is your target audience for this mission, this department, this service? And they're going, to the church members. And I said, but what province are we in? And they're like, what do you mean? I said, so what province are we in? We're in the province of Alberta. And Alberta is known for three things. They're known for farmers because we're Alberta beef. We're known for, like, the Calgary Stampede because we have a rodeo. And we're also known for our oil, which we were at the time. And all three of those are more of a trades type of mentality, where fundamental compartmentalism means nothing to them. And everyone just looked at me like I had the plague. And I'm like, what the fuck am I here? But the guy who invited me here was like fireworks were going off in his face. He lit up like a Christmas tree. And I'm like, oh my God. And I had no idea what was going on. But then all of a sudden he said something. He goes, well, we may want to try and work the words around a little bit. And so they finally decided to make available something about resources to cultivate Christ-centered families or something like that, because they thought the cultivate would be a good word or whatever. And that was what was decided. But I never really had a see you later at the end or anything like that. And I thought, oh, okay. And I just left on my, why the hell was I there? And the guy caught up with me afterwards. And I said, are you sure you wanted me to be there? Because I felt of no use there. He goes, absolutely not. He said, you were exactly, and you did exactly what I wanted you to do. And that was to bring it down to a level that was relatable to everybody instead of just to them. And they had a trouble with doing that. And I knew that you would ground them. And I thought, oh, okay, I guess I was chosen. The moral of this story in regards to being not chosen is that there are two sides to it, because sometimes you can be the person that you feel that's not chosen, and it can be very painful, and you can take it and build that up, that you're the type of person who is left out, you're the type of person who gets forgotten, you're the type of person that nobody wants. And you can have that in regards to where you're not chosen. Or you can start looking in your small day-to-day life where someone lets you go first, they choose you first, or that you decide that you're going to do something that brings you joy and you choose you first, and you can start being the type of person that makes good choices, the type of person that chooses myself, the type of person that makes choices that builds you up. And you can start turning around and realizing that the person you have to make the choice for and be chosen, you have to be your chosen one. And that was the hardest thing for me, because there are times that I thought I was making choices for myself, but I was making choices from a position of a not. There was places that I was not accepted, I was not enough. And there were places that I felt not wanted, and there was places I felt not seen, and those knots drove my choice. And I made some choices, and boy, and I've been chosen, and some of those choices and those being chosen have been based in my fear of these knots and who and what these represent for me. And then when I took the not seen and realized that some of my invisibility is actually a superpower for me, then I start to make choices based on the superpower instead of the choice of being small and not seen. And the choice of being not wanted, I can now decide what I want, instead of putting everybody else's needs and sacrificing my love for other people. And that takes me right into being not loved. I've realized the other day too that my ex-husbands and my mom and my dad and my brother and all of these people that have inflicted incredible pain and betrayal and loss from their choices for me and against me, that I really have been chosen and protected through all of that, because I really did get the best case, worst case scenario in a lot of things. Now, does that make it that everything's very airy fairy and gone? No, there's going to be some dissection, some unpacking, whatever word you want to say as things come up. But I'm decided now that after that realization with my dad, that I choose now to see that I'm the type of person that is protected. I'm the type of person that is chosen, because there are a lot of different things in my day to day life where I get chosen for things, because I'm chosen to tell something that's going on in their life. I'm chosen to be the one that provide the safe space. I'm chosen to be the one that, because I'm responsible, I'm chosen because I'm the one that makes someone feel safe, healthy, happy, and secure, or loved, or anything. That there are many times during the day where my cat chooses my lap to lie on and me to love and connect with, when there are so many other spaces in the house that they can sit on, and rejoice the times that I am the type of person that is chosen. And if this resonated with you, that you feel in some ways that you've been not chosen, then this is my love letter to you, to realize that there are many times in my life that I have been not chosen. But like to quote Garth Brooks, that some of those being not chosen have actually been unanswered prayers, where he says the song, Thank God for Unanswered Prayers. And I understand that when you're in the thick of this not chosen and the pain of it, hearing someone like me tell you that, you just want me to go fuck myself. And I get that. And I really do understand, because I've been there, done that, bought the t-shirt, the rags are under the washing machine. That's how much I understand on what it feels like to fuck you on this I'm chosen, not chosen business. But it all stops when you start realizing that you have the worth to choose yourself, and to undo these knots that are keeping you from recognizing that worth. Because this truly is the one, in regards to the most, is when you choose yourself, and you choose yourself out of love, respect, and just that, wow, I deserve this. I'm worth it. That's when everything changes. And that brings us to the end of this episode. And I want to thank you for choosing to spend your time with me, and that making me one of your choices for helping you move through and turning the shit in your life into fertilizer. If you have anyone else in your life that you feel that feels the sting of being not chosen, you can share this with them. You could also leave what resonates with you on Facebook or Instagram, or send me a email at justjaxpodcast@gmail.com. Leaving a 5-star review would go very far, because then other people could see how this podcast has impacted you. we're in a back to school season right now, and it's time for us to get into that mindset. And I have the perfect books for you to, if you were interested in learning cursive, because I have the ultimate cursive writing adventure. There's a 3,000 word adventure story that takes you through the alphabet so that you learn the pangram sentence, and that pangram sentence can be a daily tool that wakes up the brain at the beginning of learning. Cursive is the shit. If you want to be able to have fun with cursive, either learning how to read it, write it, or have puzzles, check out my website at crackthecursiveco.com, where you can get the PDFs, or you can go on Amazon or Barnes & Noble online and you can buy the books there. I have swag in for my shift, loser, and forthwith merchandise. It's all there on the website as well. And I want to thank you for choosing to spend your time with me. And remember that you are the chosen one. And when you realize that you truly are the sun and the rotation of your existence in the best way possible, that helps you become a stronger you. Because the choices that I made before this were ones that were out of fear because I wasn't loved, so I made this choice. I wasn't seen, so I made this choice. I wasn't enough, so I made this choice. But what choices do you make when you feel that you are beginning to have those things? And that's what I wish for you. Have a great day, everyone. Jax out.